Right guys, we're going to look at the kneeling hamstring curl. So before we get into the actual execution, we'll look at setup and we'll look at some of the common mistakes with that as well, and then we'll get into what a few good reps look like. So Mal's going to hop up on here. Now, big thing to really focus on here is keeping those hips nice and square. What often will happen is that hip will end up dropping and the hips just end up all sorts of off in this position. So we want to make sure that hip is hiked up. Both sides of the hips are nice and square with each other. In terms of the upper body here, one of the common mistakes we'll see is that people often force themselves super upright and almost like overextend the hip. And remember, that's not a very good position to get output out of the hamstring. So we want to allow for that hip flexion. If anything, we want to actually increase that hip flexion, i.e. that bend at the hips, in order to allow the hamstring to do its job. The next thing we might look at as well is making sure that rib cage is pulled down towards the hips. And then depending on using an individual, you might be able to rest purely on the elbows, or you might have to even put those elbows a little bit wider to get your chest closer to the pad. Again, allowing for that more favorable angle. From there, same cues apply to many other hamstring variations. We're going to pull back on the handles, make sure those lats are engaged. It's obviously going to help to stabilize the hips as well. And then from there, before she starts curling up, she's going to think about driving the quad into this support pad at the front here. And once she's got all that locked in place, she can then just purely flex at the knee, contract hard in that shortened position at the top, not throwing it up if you just do a couple of bad reps, Mel. Not throwing it up with excessive momentum, certainly not at the start as well. But as she gets that top position up and hold, it's holding that short position, keeping that tension in the hamstring as she lowers down to that bottom part into what we call the lengthened range. And then she's also going to control this end point at the bottom here. Now, sometimes we might not get you to lock all the way out. We might get you to just come down to just around 10-15 degrees short of lockout. That's just a bit of a tool to help you keep tension on the hamstring initially, but then over time we might then get that full range and go through that full excursion for the hamstring curl. So pause in that bottom position, curl up, pause in that top position, and own that all the way through the full range of the movement.